What's going on, everybody? It is Jamie, and welcome to the channel Thrift on Fire. Today, we're going to be adding to the Let's Talk About Reselling in Canada playlist. This time, it's Steph and Ethan from the Every Closet. They are from Vancouver, British Columbia. I think actually just outside of that, but they will explain that here in a minute. They're so close to 1,000 subs, so you should definitely check out their channel. Give them a sub. They would appreciate it. I would appreciate it, and we had a great conversation. They're really nice people, really cool content. So check it out. Okay, so we're here with Steph and Ethan from the Every Closet, two Vancouver resellers. So why don't you guys just introduce yourself a little bit, maybe talk about your YouTube channel.
Yeah. So my name is Stephanie.
And I'm Ethan. Yeah.
We're a couple. We have been together like 12 years now, and we live together in an apartment here in the Vancouver area. And we started a little reselling business. I started it, and then Ethan came along with me. Yeah. And we liked it so much, we decided to kind of go all in full time. And so we figured, because we like it so much, we like sharing stuff about it, and the community was so nice and welcoming that we wanted to start our YouTube channel too, because we just love sharing things with the community and getting that like feedback back, and everyone's been so amazing.
Yeah, even like with sharing stuff, we've learned so much as well from our YouTube audience just as we go.
And that is really awesome. I know myself, I've created a lot of good friendships just on my own YouTube channel and learned a lot from other people. And yeah, that is very valuable for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the community is so great for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a good explanation of who you are. Why did you actually get into reselling? Was it just interest? Were you watching stuff online and you kind of just thought it would be something neat to try, or was it actually a pivot and career move that you thought would actually take off in the long run?
Oh, it was so not conscious decision.
Okay.
We went on a road trip, and I feel like we just brought way too much stuff. And so from there, I was like, I want to get rid of all of our stuff. And so I started selling some of it on Facebook Marketplace. And I was like, hey, people are buying things. I didn't expect that.
She was making good money right away out the gate.
Yeah, I was like, hey, I just made $2,000 on my old clothes that I consider garbage. That's cool. So then I looked into it a little bit more. I don't remember exactly where I heard of Poshmark, but when I joined it, I realized that this is where people were going, like, to really focus on clothes reselling, which was something I had way too much of. So I sold a few more of my own things, and then heard someone on Poshmark that they thrifted clothes and then sold them. I was like, that's genius.
That sounds like a good idea.
So I went and did it, and it worked. It was just, mostly what I was looking for was a remote job or something that we could do where we have a flexible schedule. And this was just the first thing I tried that like really started making money. And I was like, let's go with it.
Okay. eBay was an afterthought then, or was eBay initially right into the Poshmark mix?
eBay was an afterthought. Ethan mostly tackled eBay for us.
Yeah. It was a process.
Poshmark's just so user friendly, and eBay didn't like what we were trying to do, and they tried to like ban us and things. So Ethan dealt with that. He is actually a lawyer by profession.
Yeah. So before we started doing this full time, I was finishing up as an articling student and became a lawyer in December of 2020. And at that point, Steph had started just making good money on Poshmark, and business was slow with the pandemic. And so my boss,
business.
Yeah. And my boss was like, you just finished, why don't you take a break? And then I'll give you a call in the new year when business picks up, because I don't have time right now to build the practice. And I said, okay, sounds good. I could use a break. Joined Steph with this. And then by the time she called, we were going full tilt at this. So
that's amazing. I mean, you obviously have something pretty great to fall back on if you ever want to, which is cool.
Yeah. It's been good, but eBay was a nightmare to get set up. I think a lot of Canadians who want to sell the way that we do on eBay will find that is also the case for them.
Well, maybe not anymore because of the update.
Yeah, they have changed some things, but so we sell on ebay.com, not on ebay.ca, and we did that because we already had our cross-border shipping figured out, selling on Poshmark.com and Poshmark.ca. And for
I think
some
a lot
reason,
of Canadians do that.
Yeah, I think so too. But it's at the time, no one at eBay seemed to understand that it was possible. But I knew that it had to be because we were doing it with Poshmark. And so it was like a 6-month process of trying to get our account unbanned first because they were like, you can't do that. We're banning you. And we're like, oh, that sucks. So.
Okay. So the issue was actually that you were selling on .com and you were not selling on .ca?
Yeah, they wanted like a, what's the number in the US?
They were
Not
like,
the
you need a
SIN
tax number, an ITIN.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And we were like,
See,
we don't want to get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was curious when you said that because I ran into I went full tilt into eBay when I started, and that is what I started with. And I wound up getting this restriction. I think it's like called MC11 or something like that. I actually made a video about it. My account got banned because they assumed I was selling so much stuff when I first started that I was like it was stolen, or like I did because I didn't have receipts or proof where I was buying stuff from. And I'm like, and I didn't realize that was a problem. And I wound up getting it resolved after I think it took about a month and a half, 2 months. And I was just one of those things where I was talking to the right representative, and I think everything wound up working out. But essentially, my account was just locked up, and that was game over. But yeah, I do know a few people who do sell on .com because they started before .ca was even around. So that's probably the most common reason too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, we were late to the game, but we just wanted to sell on .com because of, honestly, because the shipping's cheaper.
Yeah, when you already have a cross-border shipper lined up and you can ship with USPS instead, it saves money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never even considered that option. So yeah, so similar to Poshmark where you get the United Postal Service labels, right? Yeah, I wasn't really thinking about that. I do use a cross-border shipper as well, but I buy the labels directly through them. So I don't really buy them through eBay, even if it is a US sale. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I never really thought that was an option. So I would assume a lot of things are probably fairly similar. I think like BC and Ontario are pretty similar in size wise and sort of what's available in your area. But what do you really find the biggest, for pros and cons, what do you think is like the one thing that really stands out as positive, and what holds you back in the area that you live in Canada?
I think we live in a super polarizing area in terms of like such good things and such bad things for reselling.
Okay.
We don't have access or easy access to any cheap inventory. Like we don't have we don't have a bins, we don't have any bulk selling. Everything out here is pretty pricey. But on that same vein, because there's so much like wealth inequality in Vancouver, there are quite a few rich people who just have so much money that they're buying designer goods and then donating them to Value Village willy-nilly. So I think we find more designer goods than probably, especially like the middle of Canada and probably the Maritimes, but I'm thinking Vancouver probably has the most designer goods out there to find. It's just what it feels like sometimes.
But you're going to be paying up for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I think the hardest part actually is that space is so expensive here that like our storage unit probably costs double or triple what most people pay in the States. Our office certainly costs triple or quadruple what most people pay in the States. Yeah. Just the leases on space here are a huge hurdle that you have to be able to get your business over.
And especially like starting our business from a 2-bedroom apartment initially, it stopped being feasible really, really quickly to run it entirely out of the apartment. This room that we're filming in used to just be for our death pile of things that needed to be photoed, and we had a giant photo tent here. And this is not a big room. So you become very good at working in limited space. Absolutely.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And also, it's funny when you're talking about the storage unit. In the first video of this series, I was talking to Reselling with John, who's from Halifax. And I recently just watched one of his videos where he upgraded, I think, to a new storage unit, a bigger one. And it's still like only $150 just because everything's so much cheaper out there. Like you can buy a house for 150,000, right? Yeah. And I know in Ontario, it's similar to what you're saying. Like I think an entry level one's $250. And then you're getting into like $400 or $500 for like a good sized one that you would actually want to work out of, right? So it's interesting in the areas you live, like what you have to pay, right?
Yeah, we live about 45 minutes outside of Vancouver, and our storage unit is $650 a month.
And it's a
Yeah.
10 by 20 garage, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty big.
It's big out of necessity because we outgrew the space in here quite quickly. So.
Yeah. Are you guys, so what are you focusing on your business? Obviously, in your videos and stuff, you talk about having employees. Are they physical employees, virtual employees? And also, like, what is your actual business model? I think it's a lot bigger than the average person.
It's not like we're a bit past selling our old clothes
Right.
and into things like an office and employees. So we have in-person employees. We had one. We just got a second one. We only got the second one because
we left the job posting up and we were like, well, it was so hard to hire the first person, waiting for just the right person. And we were like, well, it's probably going to take a while. And maybe by the time we get another application that we feel is a really good fit, then we'll be able to support a second employee. And it was like within 2 weeks of hiring the first one, a second application came in. And we were like, oh, this person sounds perfect. And then we interviewed them and we're like, darn, you are perfect. Okay, well, like,
we're just going to hire you too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Especially if there's benefits to, you know, obviously having more hands.
Yes.
Oh, so many benefits.
We're trying to get at least like 20 to 30 listings out every day, and they're photoing and they're now helping with the listing process as well, because getting that many listings out is time consuming, and they're helping with some of the shipping stuff.
Yeah.
So for our first like 3 years, we weren't able to go away without putting the closet and our eBay store on vacation mode. And anyone who's done that for more than a day or two at a time will know that it punishes you in the algorithm pretty substantially, is what we found, at least, by doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it does for sure.
So
we really wanted to be able to travel still, because I was like, that's the whole point of us having this cool, flexible job.
Yeah.
I want to travel, but it was just hurting the business too much whenever we did. So that was the main drive behind getting the employees.
Yeah.
But sorry, your question was about our business model. So we mainly focus on clothes, shoes, accessories, anything wearable. Although we will, like, especially for consignment clients, we will take in other items. Just, we tell people, like, nothing that can't fit in our car. Like, we're not taking on furniture. We're not taking on anything huge.
Yeah.
But
that's smart.
Yeah. Well, just, there would be no space again.
I think the way you've described your business is kind of similar to how we used to do things, but we just had such a hard time with storage and packing and shipping, where we used to be like, anything we can get our hands on, we'll ship. But we just had a hard time with like the packaging of anything that wasn't like clothes or that we couldn't pack down. We just never figured out a really good system for it.
Because now we have about, I think we're back at 1,700 active listings on Poshmark, and about 1,500 on eBay. Yeah.
800 on eBay. Yeah. And where is this sourced from then? So obviously you talked a little bit about consignments, but is the rest in like bulk buys, or you're still outsourcing the old fashioned way? Can't be for that many items, I wouldn't think, but.
Oh, yes, we are.
Yeah,
but
really.
I would say that consignment is a good third of our items now. And certainly a good, like, again, with the wealth inequality in Vancouver, I think the consignment game here is really where the money is and where it's at. Because if you can skip over Value Village or wherever you're thrifting or getting stuff from, and get stuff directly from the people who are just donating it anyway, or who are bringing it to regular consignment stores, we say, hey, we can pick it up from you so you don't have to drop it off. Hey, we can give you a bit of a better split than the consignment stores in the area. And so we've had 2 or 3 really like
phenomenal consignment clients. And it can completely change the way you run your business if you're able to do that. On the flip side, of course, with consignment clients comes more work, right? Because then you have to track each item, where it sells, for how much, where it is. If you lose one of your other items in your inventory system, it's kind of like, well, it'll turn up eventually. But if you lose someone else's item in your inventory system, it's not good.
Not as okay.
So we have increases the administrative burden across your business for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So do you also like reach out in other ways? Like, I'm just kind of curious because it does seem like a lot of listings and 30 items a day. I was trying to do 10 a day just myself. It's crazy. It's hard, right? Especially
20 for now.
20? 20 for now.
20
Okay.
for now, and the goal is to push, but yeah.
Okay. Because I have just personally just scaled down to looking at, it's more about, it's 5 items to a certain value. And
Right.
I kind of play around with what I'm doing anyway, because
Yeah.
I was at 10 I was getting so burnt out, because I originally I'm like, okay, I'll do 10 and then I'll just keep pushing it up. It's 10 to find 10 items every day. In my area anyway, items that you would actually make good profit on, it's hard. It's definitely hard.
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
say I can find 10 items a day here at Thrifting pretty much no problem. The issue then I would run into if we were all thrifting would be, what's the word? Cash flow.
Yeah.
Because it takes us quite a while to sell things, especially the things that we buy are somewhat higher end things. And so often I have found the more you're asking, the longer it takes for someone to just come around, unless it's extremely sought after.
Yeah.
But just the things that are just worth, say, $100, I think they take some time.
Yeah, there are certain things that obviously do just that are so rare that sell instantly when you're getting into electronics and video games and stuff like that. But with clothing, yeah, it tends to be a longer wait for that. And it's funny too, because I would like to get to more of a business model like yours, but with access to the Goodwill bins in my area, it's crazy because I can still buy things so cheap that do only sell for maybe sometimes $25, $35, but it has so little money in it. It's almost like it almost really feels like free money at sometimes. You know, you're paying like $1, $2 for a pair of jeans or a shirt that you know that'll sell fast. But you have to sell a lot more things to get up, you know, your numbers higher essentially, right?
Yeah, for sure. We have like a general profit we aim for per every single item. About $25 profit per item
as a minimum. Like if we're intentionally sourcing an item, we have to know that after fees we're going to make at least 25 on it. Otherwise, it's not worth it when you factor.
We have a little chart when we're sourcing of like, okay, well, if this is $9.99, then I have to be able to list it for, say, almost like $60 for me to be able to send offers on it and still make $25 after fees and everything.
Okay, no, that makes a lot of sense, and that's probably a good segue into my next question anyway. So when you're sourcing, you're obviously sourcing particular items, and those items obviously over time change, but currently right now, what would be your top 5 bolo items you'd be looking for? Like when you walk in the store and you find these things, no question you pick them up. Obviously condition and whatever is going to matter, but essentially, brands or items are you looking for?
Oh, bolos are kind of my thing.
Yeah.
And so we have like a lot. When you said you're going to ask about 5, I was like, I can narrow it down to 5.
It was hard.
We're fine. We're fine with more than 5. It's just, I just thought 5 is a good number.
Yeah.
Let's do 5 each.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it would be weird if we didn't mention Lululemon, given that Lululemon started here in Vancouver. There's a lot of it around, but we're actually quite picky with it. But it is, I would say, like, by far, it is our bread and butter brand. Like, it's always the most value in our closet, Lululemon, and it's always the most of our sales. So it's a big one, but we tend to be quite picky with it.
Yeah.
And then I would say things I get excited about are like John Fluvog shoes or Roberto Cavalli we find a lot, and that's very valuable. Let's see. All Saints, I would say, is kind of another bread and butter brand. We find it all the time around here and can flip it for good profit. I get excited finding Love Shack Fancy. Hang on, was that 5?
No, about
Yeah, I think it was 5. And quite honestly, like Lululemon for me, like obviously I know what that is. The other 4 I've never heard of, so that's totally interesting to me. I'm certainly going to look them up. I mean, I'm not a big clothing guy anyway. I do like to sell clothing, and I'm certainly getting into it more. I'm more of a jerseys and vintage kind of clothing seller.
Yeah.
And jeans and stuff like that. But yeah, I like to hear these brands because when I'm out there, when I run across them, I'm always like, oh yeah, like look at this. And then, I mean, it's definitely good. So what are your top 5, Ethan?
Steph mentioned John Fluvog. That's definitely up there for me. They make all kinds of like really funky like shoes and leather goods in particular. and so I always love finding those. Arc'teryx is also up there.
Ethan loves Arc'teryx.
I love Arc'teryx. They make really like durable outdoor adventure wear. Alexander McQueen is another one. We don't find it very often, but it's like a luxury label that we've sold maybe
5 or 10
I was gonna
times?
say 6 to 10 pieces, and they always do really well.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ted Baker as well as a brand that we see a lot. And usually that's one that stores around us know, and so it sometimes is marked up, and other times it's not.
Yeah.
Nearly enough.
Especially their dresses. Usually we find them
Yeah.
between $25 and $45, and we can almost always sell them over $100. So
Yeah, Ted Baker
Wow.
dresses. Depending on size and condition, obviously. But those do really well in our closet in our eBay store.
that's
Yeah, that is definitely interesting. Yeah, a few more notable ones that I've heard of. So that's definitely makes me feel a little bit better.
okay. Sorry.
Yeah, no, like it's always fun to learn new stuff. And I think that's one of the one thing that I do love about reselling is there is no like playbook where you're like, this is what you know. You're always learning, and then sometimes even things you learn are no longer relevant, right? There's plenty of things that you picked up last year that you wouldn't even think about picking up anymore. So it's kind of fun because it is like revolving. You're always learning, always moving, pivoting. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it sounds also like you guys are doing a lot of automation as well with your business. Is that correct?
Yes.
Wherever possible. We believe in
Wherever possible.
efficiency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not clicking buttons all day.
Yeah. The least you can do that way, the better for sure. I know with Poshmark, I'm surprised how much I really do love Poshmark, to be honest. But when I first started doing it, I was it's just so hands-on, right? Like I was on there sharing and like, I really have to do this. This is crazy. But then when you do it, you see, oh, like this is actually rewarding me. So then you kind of do it more. But yeah, when I learned about automation, that kind of took away some of those hands-on headaches. It definitely made me even love Poshmark even more.
Oh yeah. Honestly, it did not take us long to be like, we can't spend all our time doing this. There's got to be a better way.
Especially once we opened our US closet, and when you open one Poshmark closet, you're on your phone a lot sharing. But if you open 2, oh my goodness, you are going to be sharing a lot.
Like all day, you'd just be sitting there on your phone. It would be completely untenable.
And if you start getting over 1,000 listings, same thing. Like if you have to share all of those listings 3-4 times a day,
that would be a nightmare.
It wasn't fun, honestly.
Yeah, I was getting carpal tunnel.
Yeah.
But it was only for the first like 3 weeks. And then I was like, someone mentioned a bot. Let's see about a bot.
Yeah. And honestly, like those are so sought after. It makes sense. Poshmark has been trying to change their algorithm recently because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for businesses. It doesn't make sense for Poshmark. So.
No, where I think of the majority, there are obviously people who just casually sell on there, but I think the bulk amount of people on there are selling for, side income or full-time income. So it makes sense to try to be more user-friendly to them, really. I know I came from the opposite side of that, where I was heavy into eBay for a year. I used eBay on and off my entire life, but I mean, I really started reselling on there for about a year before I started looking at other platforms to sell on. So it was definitely a pretty big change. There were so many things about Poshmark that were easier, but there was a lot, like I said, a lot more hands-on things that you had to do to create sales or be noticed on the platform for sure.
Yeah, they want you to be on there all the time because they want you to eventually give in and shop.
Yeah. Yeah. That is funny. I have bought a few things on Poshmark, but not a ton. I've sold lots, but yeah. So when you were starting, what do you think is something that you wish you would have knew before you got into this? Is it just mostly brand awareness, or is it something else?
No, brand awareness is fun and like my favorite thing to research, but it's probably not like the main takeaway. I think the main thing I've learned over the last few years is like, just because you can make a profit selling something doesn't mean that you should. Like, just because just because like something's a low cost of goods or something doesn't mean that you necessarily should pick it up. Like, I get excited when I see low cost of goods because it's rare here, but whenever I get swayed by that, and I'm like, well, it's only $2 or something. Like, I can totally make a profit on that. I always end up regretting it later, because if I'm not willing to invest in it, like, why are our buyers going to be willing to invest in it? And I just think that, like, time is money. And so the more that we've grown, the more we've gone into higher and higher, like, average sale price items, because it's just more efficient. Like, if we can only physically, like you were saying, get 20 listings out a day, or if it was just me by myself, 5, then those need to have higher profit if I'm going to be making, like, a good income.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd echo that as well. I was thinking, just because you can sell something doesn't necessarily mean you should, because yeah, you only have so much time and attention in a day. I completely agree.
Yeah. I feel like it's all about maximizing time.
Yeah. And like, our business model would change substantially if we had access to the bins or something like that. Because you could still find things there that you can flip for that $25 minimum profit. But that's kind of what we found is our sweet spot as aiming for.
Yeah, but when you are, the bins are great, but one thing, and it kind of falls into what you're talking about. A lot of times you can pick stuff up, but the work you have to put into it to make it look presentable or sellable or get the profit you want out of it, sometimes isn't even worth it. I used to pick up a lot of shoes there, and then I started realizing I'm spending sometimes 15 minutes making these shoes look like I would want to buy them myself. And I'm like, what is that really, when you start breaking things down, it's not really worth it. It's not worth as much as maybe it appears to be from the outside, right?
Yeah, for
completely.
sure. We have, like, an added cost of goods for each item, like, just a base of just running our business. And we broke it down by item, and we were like, okay, well, if it costs us, like, in employee salary, in office and storage unit and bots and everything else, supplies and stuff, if it costs us this much to even list something, if the cost of goods was 0, then I'm adding that to the cost of goods of every single thing we're picking up.
That makes a lot of sense. What I also would kind of want to get your input on this. How do you feel about so live shows, whether it be Posh Lives or whatnots, are fairly new now in the reselling community. How do you feel about them? Have you done actual lives? I know we've all sort of done the silent live shows, but have you actually got into the live show selling?
We only have done one. I'm such a procrastinator and also stuck in my ways. It went well, but of course it's hard the way our business, like, it's not set up for our business model. It's totally set up if you do have access to the bins, or if you have access to bulk buys or things like that. I think you can very efficiently, like, you don't have to really put so much into the listing. You can very efficiently, like, turn $1 into $15 all day, and that's a great business model. But we just don't have $1 items very often.
Yeah.
But
No, that makes sense.
We used to buy what we called $10 bags, and they were kind of like bulk purchases. We would just offer, like, I think we had an ad on Facebook Marketplace. It was like, hey, we'll buy large garbage bags of clothes from you for $10. And so doing that, we used to get a lot more volume, and I think that would be a way to source for live shows. But just the way we source right now, like, I can't put up the John Flubog shoes I paid $40 for a live sale unless I'm gonna start them at like $80.
Yeah.
Right.
And no one's gonna bid on that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know even with the silent live shows, I've just been currently doing them with automation, but even prior to that, I really wasn't even running them to sell them. I was just running them to appease the algorithm so that, you know what I mean? Like, it seemed to be when you did it, you'd have more people looking at your closet, whether it was organic through the live show, or if it was just the algorithm rewarding you for doing it. But I wasn't really even interested in selling on the live show because I didn't want to give away most of my inventory. So I was usually just, 15 to 20% off of whatever it was listed for. And I did make a few sales, or have made a few sales even that way still. But I think that is my goal with it for sure. And then have you dabbled in whatnot or not at all?
Not yet. Actually, Tabs keeps telling me I should. I don't know.
Yeah.
The new things are great, but I feel like we're so, like, set in our systems, and they're they're good and they function really well. But like if I have to add another platform, I'm like, oh, that's a whole nother thing. But
Yeah,
that's for
I
me
think you would do well on it.
individually.
I think you both have good personalities for it. Like you're,
I'm about to light these Gucci shoes on fire. Remember to burn shoes responsibly.
Okay, fellow resellers, here is a hot tip I'm sure none of you have heard, but it is to look up comps when you find something interesting. So these shoes seem to take themselves very seriously, very unique, but when you look them up on Posh or anywhere reselling, they have terrible comps. And do you want to know why? It's because they're brand new $40 on Amazon. So bye-bye, we're not going to buy those.
you know, you're young and fun, and I think you would do well on Whatnot for sure. And if I would give you any advice doing it, I would try to set it up as an American account, just sort of like your Poshmark or US. I do have a Canadian one, and when I was on there, I'm going to say it's been over a year ago since I even messed around with Whatnot. I was doing Funko Pops, and they were very sought after, but the shipping, because it was from Canada, was crazy. So it was just Americans basically telling me that my shipping was outrageous. I'm like, it's not even my shipping price. That's the shipping price that Whatnot is charging you. But if I could, I haven't figured out how to go back and edit my account. I'd probably have to sign up and make a new account that was an American account so I could do that. But yeah, I do think if it was something you're ever interested in, I think you do have the right personality to pull it off.
Oh, well, that's very kind. Thank you. Yeah, the right personality, but not the right work ethic.
Well, it really depends what you want to sell on there, right? But it is. I found it very fun and social. It just wasn't all that profitable for me.
Yeah, I think if we were gonna do either live shows or on Posh or Whatnot, we'd probably have to source intentionally for those and just be like, these are the items for the live sale.
Yeah, because when we when we had our live sale on Poshmark, people were coming in like, "Hey, what about that Tiffany & Co. ring you just listed?" Like, no.
No. Yeah, it's funny. I think I just did a shoe one on Poshmark, a silent one, and I had somebody harass me for about 5 minutes straight about something that wasn't same thing, wasn't even listed. I'm like, I am not giving you that for free. I'm sorry. Yeah, people tend to be a little pushy.
I put money into that. I'm gonna need money back from that. That is this whole business. Yeah, it's fun.
Absolutely. If you stuck around this long, thank you so much. And thanks once again to Steph and Ethan. I really do appreciate your time. And, definitely if you guys haven't checked out their channel yet, definitely it will be linked down below. So give them a sub. Definitely would appreciate that as well. We're still looking for other people from other provinces. So if you know anybody, leave a comment down below. Or if you just want to message me on Instagram, that's totally fine too. I don't mind at all. But till next time, guys, take care, stay safe. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.